Don't look for sanity in the world. Don't look for common sense. There are forces in the world that run you now that are determined to show no common sense to you at all. And they certainly don't want you to have any either. Sad, isn't it? We're living really through an amazing time where the battle for anything that remains of your mind is almost over for most folk. Most folk, and especially the young, had never had a chance. Never had a chance. They can't remember any time when things were fairly normal. They can't remember. They think it's always been like this. Another great racket, and the whole of society has been trained that they've got to participate. There's your option. You have no choice in it. Your politicians that are pushing it all are all in the take. They know, and they know. I've read all the articles. I won't do it all again. But the top politicians have said it doesn't matter if it's a con, and if all their data is fake that came out of the different universities years ago to do with their fudging the data on the weather. It doesn't matter if it's all fake. It's all in a good cause, basically, because they can use that money across the world to help the poor people. But we're always helping the poor people that never get any less poor. Isn't that strange? Isn't it? But this is the racket that we're getting subjected to. But what a control mechanism. How you can live. Right down, and I'm telling you where it's supposed to go eventually, right down to your own governments accepting quotas from the United Nations of how many live births they're going to allow. That's where it's eventually going to go. I kid you not. You wait and see. It will eventually go that way. They did these plans years and years and years ago. How to get to what they wanted to where they wanted to go was the big problem always. Well, now they've got the techniques, of course, and they're pushing it. And that's something that will definitely bring down the pike. And you're going to see it coming. Yep. Most folk won't mind, because you've already been conditioned with a nihilistic society and culture given to you that it's good to kill most of your babies. Abortion's fantastic, apparently. And it's been a mantra for years and years and years, pushed from the very, very top to make sure they can bring down populations. Well, this is the big kicker now. This is the big kicker. Even though most of you apparently are not breeding at all, and you don't have children, and again they use that as an excuse to flood the countries. So you can't please your masters. If you don't have children, or you don't have many children, they'll say, "Oh, there's not enough getting born. We've got to bring in lots from the third world countries that are overpopulated." Then they bang up your figures in your own countries, and then they claim that you're overpopulated. You can't please them. See, it's a racket. It's a con. When things don't make sense in a logical fashion, you know you're living in a con. Always remember that. Always remember that. Things are either logical or they're not logical. And don't let yourself be bamboozled with pseudo-scientific rubbish, nonsense that they're famous for shoving out there with graphs and charts and all that nonsense. Or the computer says that predicts things. Oh, it's beautiful. It's going to be used for going into more and more austerity and how things aren't so good and all that kind of stuff, and just accept it and yada yada yada. And mind you, I am sure they're going to even step up the amount of indoctrination by fiction and entertainment they give you to get through all this bad phase of poverty, and it'll be awfully cheap to get all this entertainment, even cheaper than it is now, or even free perhaps, a lot of it. That's very essential, because you must get your indoctrination, which comes through fiction. How can I put it? The whole idea of having a guy running the country is so farcical. Or just a party running a country is so farcical. Because the big agendas continue, agendas that were made 40, 50 years ago, continue regardless of who is in as a party. There really is a fact. I'll touch on a few things tonight to show that too, but that's how it really, really is. We live in a completely remanufactured reality game for the general population. The youngsters are totally indoctrinated into it very, very intensely, from the day they can comprehend anything at all, right through their lives. And the adults too were hit. The ones that literally were already adults before the internet came along, they were all already hit by it as well. They'd already been infected by television indoctrination as well. So it's just incredible the techniques that are used. Not really, I suppose, especially when they can show you so much stuff as entertainment to fascinate you. And we truly do have a boredom aversion. Most folk can't read books today, and actually for a long time most folk haven't read books, and so anything that moves in front of their eyes with flickering lights or whatever will hold their attention, and you can do an awful lot with that, and you can certainly indoctrinate them very well as they're fascinated and hypnotized by whatever they're looking at. Again, old techniques, I've done lots of shows on that over many, many years, so go into cuttingthroughthematrix.com archives, and you'll find stacks and stacks and stacks of stuff, all for free. Society has been so hammered by the cultural experts at the top, who know exactly how to bring healthy functioning societies down into the gutter, where they're dysfunctional and sick, and even kill their own children. And it hasn't stopped yet. It hasn't stopped. And they make it even seem to be fun. That's how it's put across. Oh, this is fun. It's fun. Lots of just indiscriminate sex everywhere is just fun and entertaining. And they put characters in front of you that have hardly any clothes on sometimes, like Lady Gaga, to kind of push that whole image of fun. Everything's fun. And there's no consequence to anything that happens. And even if there happens to be a consequence, don't worry about it. In some magical world, they'll get rid of all the problems. It's just astonishing, because people think that individuals in the music industry or anything else on a big scale literally are who they say they are. They're just self-made whatever. Rubbish. Machines, big machines. What you're looking at is the end product from the factory, the big entertainment factory, with stacks of people behind it, and who know exactly what culture they're pushing, and the age groups they're targeting, and what they want youngsters to emulate in their thoughts and their conversations and in their actual real life too. They know exactly what they're doing with it all. Do you realise, I don't have TV, so I don't watch anything like that, and haven't watched for years. But someone had mentioned about Gaga and the Super Bowl and all this kind of stuff. And always make sure that it's all for the youngsters who always think there's going to be occultic stuff. And they give you a few symbols, and it's all managed by the professionals who manage the videos, etc., and the whole persona of the front person who happens to jump around wearing very little. That's just a front person, really. Until youngsters watching that won't know what they are eventually by the time they're finished. That's the intention of it. Do you think it's just happened? Is that there to entertain you? No. Really? There's no other way to do it, eh? They have to show you all that stuff and get you to think it's all quite normal. Really? You're not sure what you are? And there's no consequences in the song. In fact, one of the songs that Gaga apparently sung, the words to it says, "I want your disease." But here it is getting sung, and you think this woman just dreamed this up herself, and that's what it's portraying. Come off it. You have no idea, and I've said before, that everything is weaponized. Everything is weaponized. It's just astonishing. But people, youngsters think that what they see on television is real, and it appears so easy. Folk dancing across the stage or whatever they're doing, then by God, they don't realise that there's a bunch of engineers and producers all putting bits and clips of videos together to make the one. It's a long-term process, very time-consuming. And the same with any kind of music, overdubbing and lots of choruses, because that's what they all use today. Anybody can make them, and can make anybody sound passable too. From a studio, or in a studio. It's the message that's important, and the people who run the front person that's important, the ones who know the psychology behind what they're actually driving at and what they're pushing. It's not happenstance. The whole culture is poisoned that way. I was reading a book by Peter Hitchens, who was the brother of Christopher Hitchens, or the late Christopher Hitchens. And Peter Hitchens was talking about the decay of Britain, basically, dismantling of Britain. He's talking about, and towards the last chapter, how the culture industry literally ran the BBC and all other television outlets and so on. And it's interesting, back in the late 90s, he mentioned some TV show in Britain called Grange Hill. I don't know, I never watched TV even over there, so I don't know what it was, except it was to do with youngsters at school, and it would bring all the social issues into drama. It was a soap opera with teenagers. And I guess in the States, they had similar ones when they go at the same time, and the same in Canada. It's just coincidence, supposedly. They'll have the same things at the same time. No, it's not. That's how the whole English-speaking world is run. All the way back to Steptoe and Son and Three's Company and so on, and Robin's Nest. All these things are managed in the same, to get points of view for change across, to change. And that's the whole key, change. But Hitchens was talking about these ones, how they're every non-governmental organisation in the country back in the 90s was pestering the producers of that show, and many other shows too, to get all the social, their particular beefs, social beefs across in fantasy form to influence the youth. That's how it was done. But you already had years and years of the same stuff through Coronation Street for a whole bunch of different age groups. But when they target the youth, they know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. Right down to ridiculous scenarios of changing the characters to suit your new politically correct characters and what they're trying to promote as to change realities or what's good and what's bad and turn things upside down. That's what they do. This is a war. It's a war. And it's a war of the controllers on all of you. They're not happy until they know they've won, which is when you parrot exactly what they've told you to parrot, and you'll say, I believe in this, which is what they've told you to believe in, you see. It's always destructive to your own culture, and you individually are part of the culture. There's a reason for it, of course. You know, the techniques of tyranny are generally much the same. At least what we achieve is much the same. Totalitarian methodology has particular footprints and techniques that it uses, but you can actually, they'll always make you believe in something which is ridiculous on pain of punishment of some kind or another if you refute what they tell you, something that they say is right in front of you. This is this or this is that. And if you say, well, that's not what I see, you're in trouble. George Orwell had it in 1984 with how many fingers I'm holding up and 2 and 2 is 4, etc. But in the land of the blind, they also show you, as they're punishing you or even torturing you, they'll say, what's better than a nice juicy steak, as they're starving you to death. And you're supposed to reply, a stale piece of bread. That's better than a nice juicy steak.
How can I help seeing what's in front of my face? 2 and 2 make 4.
Sometimes they're 5, sometimes 3, or all of them at once. You must try harder.
If you don't do it, so you get punished and beat up again. That's standard stuff, you see. They will tell you, they'll tell you what terms to use, what names to use for everything, and you better go along with it, or you're going to get punished big time. Big time. That's totalitarian. That's real tampering with the human mind, where you cannot say what your conclusions are on anything, actually, but definitely what you see in front of your face. You better see what you're told to see or else. And you better behave accordingly or else. That's tyranny, that's mind control. And it's being used in such an incredible scale across the world right now, all from entertainment pretty well and educational facilities, that it's a big push. It's a must-be, as I call it, for the controllers. And there are world controllers. They are world controllers. Not just national controllers, but world controllers. The few countries are not totally under the grasp of those who control all the resources and everything in it are under attack right now, as you well know.
You can just sit and think of nothing. Nothing at all.